morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about loss of biodiversity. Extinction is not just for the dinosaurs. Most of the species that have ever been on Earth are now extinct. I think it's like 98% of all species that have ever been on Earth are now extinct, not just for the dinosaurs. We're also causing a lot of issues, and this is called the Anthropocene. So our new era. So anthro means human. It means era of the human. And we are causing some extreme changes to our world, which is resulting in a loss of biodiversity. All right, so it is currently a crisis, our loss of biodiversity. Right now, scientists are estimating between 100 to 1,000 species per million species are going extinct each year. That's 100 to 1,000 times the extinction rate before humans. So the background extinction rate is typically about one species per million species every year going extinct. So we're lots of species are going extinct during our lifetimes. And every year, about 100 to 1,000 species out of a million are going extinct. Which means most signs point to that we are currently in a mass extinction event, mainly, all because of us, because of what we've done to the environment. There's only ever been 5 mass extinctions in the Earth's 4.5 billion year history. We'll go more over these later, but these are the 5 here, and then the 6 that we're currently in. The last one was the one that got the dinosaurs. The third one was the largest of all of the mass extinctions. It was called the Great Dying. About 96% of all species on Earth died. Pretty crazy. And we're at it again. Woo, mass extinction. And the reason why we're going through mass extinction is these 5 main drivers. So these were identified by the United Nations in 2019 as the drivers of biodiversity loss. So the first is going to be due to loss of habitat because of land use. So that's going to be just like cutting down trees, basically cutting down forests. 2, direct exploitation of organisms. This is going to be over-harvesting and poaching. 3 is climate change, 4 is pollution, 5 is invasive species. All right, so habitat loss. The main reason that we're destroying habitats is for agriculture, farms, growing livestock, that kind of stuff. Also a little bit of urbanization and a little bit of mining, but the main force there is agriculture that's causing habitat loss. The effects, so at first you're going to lose specialist species because they need that very specific habitat to live. Once those specialists are gone, that's going to affect the generalist species. So remember, our food webs, everything's really interconnected in an ecosystem. And if you pull out one piece, there's going to be kind of like a ripple effect throughout the rest of the food web. So it starts with the specialists who you removed their very specific area that they need to live. And because the specialists are now gone, you're going to lose the generalists. It also can reduce numbers of species that require large territorial areas. So this is happening with tigers. They require large areas. They're solitary creatures. They don't hunt in packs or anything like lions. And each tiger needs a very large hunting ground. And now because we're kind of dividing up their territories, there's not as many of them. They can't mate. They can't cross and get into each other's territory. So they are very endangered to the point of near extinction. Tigers are. So are orangutans. Their whole habitat in Borneo has been destroyed because of agriculture, mainly for palm oil. And a lot of orangutans are dying, which is really sad because they're really cute little baby monkeys, and they're dying because of habitat loss. Oops. Overharvesting and poaching. So causes, we're just hunting them too much. We typically are going to hunt them either for food or for animal products. So there's going to be an extinction of species that are hunted to a point of extinction. We've done this multiple times throughout human history. And once that species is extinct, again, it's going to lead to ripple effects throughout the ecosystem. This is mainly happening with fish. We are catching them faster than they can reproduce. So this is an example of harvesting fish. We just are way over harvesting them. Poaching is more happening, not so much for meat, but for animal products like ivory. So a lot of animals have been poached to almost near extinction. Climate change, so causes release of greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels. We know this, the greenhouse effect. This is really hurting biodiversity because the change in weather patterns are going to change the temperature and precipitation. And remember, those are two things that really control what can live in an area. We'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but it's going to push organisms outside of what's called their ecological tolerance. And there can also be some habitat loss there due to desertification and melting ice. So it's going to not be good for animals. More wildfires, more droughts. It's going to kill things. Pollution. This is going to come from burning fossil fuels, electronics equipment, synthetic chemicals. This could change pH, nutrient availability, or just create a toxic environment. Again, it's going to push them outside of their ecological tolerance and they're going to die. So a good example is carbon dioxide. It's getting into the oceans. Carbon dioxide is acidic, so it's going to drop the ocean pH, which means that organisms that rely on calcium carbonate, which is going to react with the acid, so it's going to reduce the amount of calcium carbonate, and so there's not going to be as many shells for things living in the ocean. And then last but not least, invasive species. Causes, we're just picking up organisms from one ecosystem and plopping them into another. Typically, we think there's going to be good effects, but then there's bad effects. So invasives are generally generalist species, and they can outcompete the native species for resources. This will lead to an extinction of the native species. They could also potentially introduce foreign pathogens into an ecosystem, which could then decimate the native population as well. So it could either be they outcompete or they're introducing pathogens. Either way, we're going to have a loss of native species. And these are two examples, which we'll talk more about when we get to invasive species. Some effects of disruptions and loss of biodiversity. So there's this thing called a population bottleneck. And this is when a species is on the verge of extinction and there's few surviving individuals. So something happened and our original population was really genetically diverse. Only a few individuals survive. And now we have a big decrease in genetic diversity. Remember, if there's more genetic diversity, species are more likely to survive other disruptions. When there's low genetic diversity, it increases the likelihood of extinction. Also, this has, if they do somehow make it, if they don't go extinct and they make it back from the point of extinction and have such low genetic diversity, that could alter this population as they evolve. So they could actually evolve into a whole new species over time because of a population bottleneck. The other thing that could happen is an entire ecosystem collapse. So if you lower biodiversity to drastic levels, entire ecosystems can collapse. So for example, these are two very similar ecosystems. This is more biodiverse. It has more life here than this one. If you were to take away, let's say maybe the hawk in both of these, if you were to take away the hawk, all right, there would be some increases here, but for the most part, these are going to be balanced out by maybe the snakes. There's not going to be, nothing's really else is going to die. We're going to have a massive increase here, which is going to lead to decreases throughout the rest of the population. So this could potentially collapse the whole ecosystem. If you got rid of producers, let's say something came in and killed the grass, this whole ecosystem 100% would collapse, and this one would probably be just fine. So it's more biodiversity means less likely to have an ecosystem collapse. And right now we're killing off species so quickly that we're kind of just like going through the food chain, the food web, and just being like, gone, gone, gone. And scientists are really, really worried right now that we are going to start seeing ecosystem collapses all across the world, because we are removing so much biodiversity from all of the ecosystems. Okay, so I want you guys to finish the slides from yesterday. And I want you guys to watch It's Okay to Be Smart. I posted the video underneath this one. It's a good explanation of stuff, and I love like crash course and that kind of stuff. So watch the video if you have time, but focus on getting the other ones done from yesterday. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.